Hey, Larry here, Acts 29 today, coming to you from sunny world headquarters in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I'd like to welcome all my viewers in Thailand and from around the world to this edition. So today we're going to go into not what the church isn't, but what the church is, or rather, who the church is. That's the question. Who is the church? Will the real church please stand up? Romans 13:14, put on the Lord Jesus Christ. That's our identification. The word church, as it turns out, is not a very good translation from the original Greek meaning of the word church. In the original Greek, it comes from the word ekklesia. Ek, that denotes exit or a mission out of, as separation from something with which there has been a close connection. Kaleo means to call properly, allowed, but used in a variety of applications, directly or otherwise, to bid or call forth. The church, ekklesia, are the people of God, the called out ones from the world that we had a close connection with formerly, and separated now unto Christ, separated by being called out. Or we could say the church, ekklesia, the people of God, the called out ones, called out of the world's system, darkness, into God's marvelous light. It occurs 115 times in 112 verses in the Greek concordance. Every verse in the New Testament that has church in it has the exact same meaning in the Greek text. Not only reference was ever in any way about a building or a structure of any type. Not one time in the New Testament did it ever refer to a building or structure of any kind. So as believers, the called out of the world ones, and separated unto God for his own chosen ones, we then are the church, the ekklesia. We are the ekklesia, the temple, the house of God. And we are, then it is completely impossible for the church to go to church, because you can't go to what you already are. It's impossible for the church to go to church. That's like asking a tiger, did you go to the tiger today? And he's like, are you blind? I am the tiger. I remember one time I was with a pastor friend of mine and some other believers, and we were doing a prayer walk at the big Mormon temple in Salt Lake City, Utah. We were walking around the grounds, and some young people were stopping folks and giving them some Mormon literature and the Mormon spiel. One girl came up to me and asked me if I went to church. I said, I am the church. She was a little shocked and then said, are you a Latter-day Saint? I said, well, let's see. These are the latter days, and I am a saint, so yeah, I guess that would make me a Latter-day Saint. Then she asked me what ward I was in. I had no clue what she was talking about, so I just told her about Jesus, and she kind of lost interest in me. Another time I was asked to fill in for the pastor of a small church that was meeting in a hotel conference room because he'd suffered a stroke and couldn't talk in an understandable way anymore. One of the Sunday mornings, I was beginning this iPad. I was beginning the preaching part, and they like to have the sermon title for the tape library. So I said, well, I guess the title of today's message is, when are you going to stop going to church? The pastor and his wife were on the front row, and I thought they were going to fall out of their chairs. At the end, I said, when are you going to stop going to church and start being the church? And then they got it. And then they were more excited. So now that we know that we, you and I, and all born-again believers are the church, we can never ask people again, where do you go to church? Why? Because we cannot go to something that we already are. The next section is from a friend of mine that came out of a building-centered church thinking and was the pastor. Now he has a very good grasp on what the organic church is. So this guy was at a conference talking about church planting. And he said every believer is a church planter and every church is a church planting church. Now let me say that this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever unless you have a biblical understanding of the organic nature. And I'm going to change it to ecclesia, because that's really what it is instead of church. So it'll jar our thinking a little bit. Unless you have a biblical understanding of the organic nature of the ecclesia. As long as we think of ecclesia as a meeting, a place, or an organized something, we will continually discount ourselves and others from being ecclesia planters. But when we see that the ecclesia is a natural, organic expression of believers who are connected to Jesus, expressing him with others in a wide variety of ways, then we can begin to understand that Alan does speak the truth. The ecclesia, we, the believers, initiate new sprouts, planting every time we initiate anything spiritual among any group of people, friends or colleagues, whether reached or lost or anything in between. In fact, isn't this what the ecclesia does? We plant seeds of life into the lives of others. This may be informal or formal. It may start informal and become formal. It may start formal and become informal. Whatever it looks like, the ecclesia, God's people, continually plant seeds of kingdom word and actions into the lives of others. That is simply who we are. I believe to see this in our lives more clearly through these next 5 things. Keep Jesus as our source and guide. Surely we can learn from others and need to, but organic life by definition flows out of our organic connection with Jesus himself. Recognize that each of us plants seeds differently. We need to honor who we are and the spiritual gifts God has given to each of us. Some evangelize with their words. Others show much compassion with their actions and by their love as well as words. Some initiate things among larger groups of people, others with just one other individual. Some of us are comfortable among youth, others among immigrants. Some are passionate about sowing among the least reached. Others feel drawn to heal and mature existing believers. That's what I do basically. I could go on and on. The point is that the organic expression of the ecclesia is meant to take many different forms and have many different looks as each believer and group of believers takes the initiative to be seed planters in his or her own way. And my friend Tim here in Thailand, that's what he does. It's called the Gospel Seed Network, and he's out planting gospel seeds. Get better at it. Whatever way God uses us to plant seeds into the lives of others, we can grow into better farmers, learn from others, hone your skills and tools, improve your work. This does not mean that the goal is necessarily bigger and more impressive. It may be just the one that we are called to at this time. Great. Plant well. Seek fruitfulness. Build relationships around living out a divine connection with Jesus. It's not a formula, it's a lifestyle. You have developed that keeps you connected to Him, to His voice, to His power. You share this with others and help them experience this same connection. This is called discipleship. And when you gather together in whatever setting to experience God, this is called an ecclesia gathering. Finally, organic life reproduces itself. However, it is we are called to plant into the lives of friends, family, neighbors, and other groups and other places. Whatever it is we are doing, always invite those we touch to do the same. In other words, whatever you do, reproduce yourself. Thus, organic remains alive. In short, plant Jesus as He leads you and help those you plant seeds in do the same. So that's from a friend of mine in California that used to be, going into the big mega church thing, and it almost drove him crazy, and so he got totally out of that, and now he works in missions and more organic church stuff. I guess at the end of the day, we have to ask, now that we know who the church is, what is the purpose of the church, the called out ones? I always looked at the called out ones, you and I, as a family, the family of God, brothers and sisters. This way I have a picture that I can relate to when I think of the purpose of the family of God, the called out ones. One is born into a family or adopted into a family, and then a process of growth begins. At first, the newborn is helpless and needs others to take care of it with all the basic needs of life. So in the next video, we're going to continue on in this subject, and we're going to take a look at how the family of God grows and goes, basically. So thanks for flying with Acts 29 today, and I'll see you on the next video.